Today, we in the Conservative Party stand shoulder to shoulder with our farmers and propose that this Senedd calls on the UK Labour Government to reverse its damaging decision to impose what has rightly been called the family farm tax. These changes to agricultural property relief and business property relief will have profound consequences for Welsh farming, rural communities and our economy. Farming is the pillar of the Welsh economy. Agriculture contributes £1.6 billion annually to our economy and directly employs over 50,000 people and many more jobs supported indirectly in supply chains, food production and retail. Yet the changes to APR and BPR threaten to undermine this critical sector. Currently, APR provides 100% relief from inheritance tax for qualifying agricultural properties, and BPR offers similar relief for business-related assets not covered by APR. These reliefs allow farming families to pass down their businesses without facing punitive tax bills that could force them to sell off land, buildings and machinery to meet their obligations. APR is not a loophole. It is a specifically designed policy introduced in the Inheritance Tax Act of 1984, protecting Britain's family farms from being sold and broken up, ensuring our food security across the United Kingdom. Labour's proposed changes to cap the full APR at £1 million and reduce relief to 50% on assets above this threshold, on paper, may seem reasonable. But yet again, Labour have got their numbers wrong. In practice, it will devastate family farms, many of which far exceed the threshold in asset value, but operate on minimal cash flows and tight profit margins. To put these figures into perspective, a typical 200-acre livestock farm in Wales may have an asset value of £1.5 million to £2 million. While this may seem high, it does reflect the rise in price of agricultural land, which currently sits at £8,000 to £10,000 per acre. It doesn't represent the farm's profitability. Under these proposed changes, the additional tax burden could easily exceed £200,000 for a farm of this size. For families inheriting that farm, this would likely necessitate in selling off land, buildings, or taking out unsustainable loans or breaking up the business entirely. This government here and the government in Westminster presumes that assuming that owning a farm equates to wealth. This is a fundamental misunderstanding of farming economics. Most farms are asset-rich but are cash-poor. The high value of land is offset by the extremely low return on capital, just 1% per annum on average. These changes also have significant threat to our tenant farmage sector across Wales, which accounts for about 30% of agricultural land in Wales. Approximately half this is let under FBTs, which can be reclaimed by the landowner at the end of their fixed period. The changes to APR reduce the tax advantages of owning land, incentivising landowners to sell off or repurpose their assets rather than rent them out. And as most people know, that equates to just planting them in trees, losing productive farmland. Young farmers and new entrants who often rely on rented land to start their careers will be disproportionately affected at a time when we should be encouraging the next generation into agriculture. This policy creates barriers to entry and reduces the opportunity for growth. But the broader economic implications of these changes cannot be ignored. Agriculture underpins the food and drink industry in Wales. It's Wales' largest manufacturing sector, worth £7 billion annually. Undermining farms risks destabilising this entire supply chain completely. The food security is an increasingly urgent issue. The UK imports around 40% of its food, leaving us extremely vulnerable to global supply chain disruptions. Family farms across Wales play a pivotal role in maintaining domestic food production and reducing resilience on imports. Now let's turn to the amendments to this motion and the amendment proposed by the government. You seem to reframe this whole issue, blaming previous UK Conservative governments for fiscal challenges. However, this attempt to justify this policy, yet again here, ignores the damage it will cause to Welsh farming. Yet again here in Cardiff Bay, blaming somebody else and not taking any accountability for what they've done. Amendment 2, proposed by Helyth Fechan, calls for a further assessment of this policy. We will be supporting this amendment. While it's important, though, we understand the consequences. We already do have ample evidence across the sector to show that this policy will harm farming businesses across the country. And I don't think delay is an option currently. Action is needed now. Deputy Presiding Officer, this family farm tax is yet again a short-sighted, harmful policy that risks irreparable damage to Wales's farming sector, and not just here in Wales, but right away across our United Kingdom. It misunderstands the economic realities of farming. It undervalues the cultural importance of the family farms, supporting the Welsh language across our country. And it ignores the broader consequences for rural communities and food security. But, Deputy Presiding Officer, it's not to be expected, is it, from Labour? This is another key in their class war against working people. They've taxed businesses, they've taxed working people, and now they're taxing farmers. They even don't want to tell people where they can and cannot send their kids to school. It's yet again this government supporting a government in Westminster waging a class war against working people. Support our motion today and let's send a clear message to Westminster. Enough's enough. Time's up already, and it's time for a change. Yeah.